said,
Okay.
looks like you're gonna be paying a little bit more for your water and sewage.
Oh, really?
They said, for real? I said, yes.
Yeah.
They said, well, how are you gonna vote? I said, I must admit to you. I said,
Mics are on now. Stone. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you would go ahead and read the roll.
Thanks. Thanks for that.
Here.
Yes.
Here.
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 All right, Miss City Manager. Would you like to call for an invocation, Mayor Pro Tem? Yes, please. Reverend McDowell, would you?
Lord, for the beauty of this day, for the opportunity to serve, for the opportunities our city affords each of us. Creator God, we simply ask that you might touch and yet sensitize us to the needs of this city of ours. Allow your touch to be a part of what we talk about this day, particularly at 6 o'clock. Touch us and energize us. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
see, I prayed for 6 o'clock.
Pray again at 6
7
o'clock.
o'clock.
I noticed that.
Pray for 7 o'clock, right?
We need 3 people to pray.
Okay, Ms. Wilson?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, we will begin with the financial report. Ms. Jan Alonzo, Finance Director, will be present to answer, or is present to answer questions regarding the March 2017 financial report, if council has any questions or concerns.
I have previously taken advantage of her time.
Yes, sir. Any others? Okay, seeing none. We will move into our budget workshop. The main part of the budget workshop is actually item 4, but we do have, I guess, some related budgetary issues and wanted council to have the opportunity to hear from, particularly item 2, regarding the upcoming 2017 Summer Work Experience Leadership Program. Mr. J.T. McLawhorn, the president and CEO of the Columbia Urban League, is here to present, and I know council is familiar with the conversations and discussions that Mr. McLawhorn and I have had leading up to this budget season, and wanting to make sure that council has a budget request that is in line with a very tight budget year. So I know Mr. McLawhorn is going to present what he's put together.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I know the mayor probably wanted to be here for that conversation, so I was, see if Pam was here first,
Oh,
I'd say
okay.
do that, but I don't see her. So.
He probably wants to be here for number 3 as well, from what he's told me. I know she was never able to be here until closer to 1, I think. Is that right, Madam Clerk?
Well, does it make sense
After
then
one.
that we would go and do our executive items then so that the mayor can be here for these presentations?
Sure, we can certainly do that. That makes a lot of sense.
I'd rather be productive
Yeah.
Agree.
while we're here.
I move that we enter into an executive session.
Second.
Okay.
You have to read the item.
Read that, Howard.
I move we move into executive session for discussion of negotiations and proposed contractual arrangement pursuant to 34-70A2, Employee Health Center, receipt of legal advice related to matters covered by attorney-client privilege pursuant to A2, candidate filing fees, and discussion of matters related to the proposed location expansion of provisions and services, encouraging location or expansions of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body pursuant to A5 incentives.
And Mr. Ball, if you could add to legal advice, council funding requests.
Legal advice for council funding requests.
Thank you.
And I think Mr. Davis seconded.
I did, second it.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is, if the clerk would read the roll?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
again? Turn that up. Turn that up.
Only thing about it, you gotta pull this out down here for this one for right now. Back in now.
Thank you.
All wired up.
I was gonna move your tray there, so.
Oh, and
Thank you, Harold.
Steve, I know you're on your fitness thing, but I got some blondies from Sweet Temptations if you want one. That's what Todd was talking about the other day.
What is that?
Blondies.
I stopped by there and got Jordan some cupcakes.
Oh, you had cupcakes.
I took her cupcakes for her birthday. But those look really good. I was able to avoid eating the cupcakes. All right, is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So move.
Second. Second.
Next question, clerk, call roll.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 At this time, we will hear the presentation on the 2017 Summer Work Experience Leadership Program. Mr. J.T. McLawhorn, President and CEO of the Columbia Urban League.
Good afternoon to Mayor, members of the council, city manager, and staff. First of all, I'd like to just make a few observations about the summer work experience program, because a lot of times people look at summer work experience as a social initiative, but it's really an economic development initiative, because it speaks to a healthy community, it speaks to a high quality of life. But I did put it to rest today, a book where the Urban League was featured in years ago about its efforts to provide youth employment opportunities and how it also prevented violence. I just want to make just an observation about this relationship with the city of Columbia that started in the 80s when we had our first drive-by shooting incident on Broad River Road. And we made national news. We were on the Today Show. And everyone said, well, Bible Belt, sleepy town like Columbia, South Carolina, had a drive-by shooting. It was unheard of. But we just really appreciate the leadership of city council and the community. So we all came together and we started this initiative to stop the violence. And we realized that youth employment was a key component of violence prevention. Also, it's a key component of developing young people. I put on your table for your review this particular article. I think it starts on page Roman number 22. SWELP. They still got SWELP. SWELP. Stop the violence. And there was an interesting study that was done at Harvard by Dr. Valenti, where he talked about how to prevent juvenile delinquency and violence. And they did a longitudinal survey that spanned over 30 years, where they took a group of young people, and they followed these young people to find out who were successful and who were not successful. And they found out at the end of the day that those young people that had work experience as youth were more successful. The statistics are kind of somewhat alarming. He said those highest on the boyhood activity, those who work more, were twice as likely to have warm relationship with a wide variety of people, 5 times as less likely to be well paid, and 16 times less likely to have been significantly unemployed. On the other hand, the group who had worked least in childhood were 4 more likely to have been arrested, 10 times more likely to have been mentally ill, and 6 times as many of them had died. When research examined the activities that made up the boyhood scale, they found that IQ, amount of school, and family and socioeconomics class made no significant difference. The key activity influencing the futures of these young men was whether they had part-time jobs and household chores, But we don't need Harvard study to tell us this. We know about this. I always like to give a testimony that, I started out years ago when I was 12 years old working in tobacco fields. And it transformed my life because it gave me a desire to have a focus on my life and realize that in order to be successful, that work is an integral part. You cannot be successful without work. And too many young people do not understand what work is all about today. But I just want to thank the City of Columbia. We have partnered on this for many, many years. And we've asked the Columbia Police Department if they would identify young people in various communities throughout the city where they have some challenging with criminal activities, that we can somehow refer these young people, give them priority to this program. I know that work would change their perspective, their future, in essence. And also, it would enhance relationship with law enforcement. Because sometimes, people don't see law enforcement as a friend or a family member. But if you help a young person get a job, they're going to be internally grateful, So it's a win-win for the community. Now, we have an opportunity. I give you a budget. This was 2017-18 budget. And it was talking, this budget is for, I think, about 700 young people, 750 young people, because we can always scale it back. Now, the key to this whole process, and I know the city has a lean budget. Everything is lean today. Washington said they got a skinny budget. They don't call it lean, they call it skinny. So, but, we have an opportunity for the City of Columbia water bill. That water bill system, that was something that was set up when Franny Heisman, Mayor Coble, and others were on City Council, E.W. Promati, Luther Baptiste. And so we set up this situation. It must have been over 25 years ago. So for the past 25 years, I have $5 deducted or added to my water bill. For the past 20 plus years, it automatically comes out of my, it's added on to my water bill. My water bill is $100, it's $105 because I selected to do this. I think we have an opportunity to promote this program. And I think we promote it effectively. We can't do it piecemeal. We need to get an ad company that would do some pro bono work for us. I think the city has over 400,000 people on this water bill system. I don't know. But if everybody gave an average of $1.
135,000.
135,000? But if everybody gave an average of $2, we'll have our budget. I give $5. Been doing it for the past 20 years. I don't miss it. And so, but I present this to you. I think that if we can promote it effectively, it will reduce stress on the general fund budget. But when you think about it, it's not stress, it's an investment in our future. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
What's the follow-through rate with the kids? When you start the program, last year, how many kids participated?
Last year, we had 500-some kids participate.
How many?
500-some.
Okay, and how many of those kids followed through the whole program?
Well, they all follow through. It's really a 2-week module. They get work and they get a stipend for involvement.
For 2 weeks?
Yeah, for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And some work for 4 weeks. Some in the city work for 4 weeks. But let me tell you this. There was a commercial on TV now. A young lady that came through our program, I guess she's 30 or something. So probably about 15, 16 years ago, came through our program. Ashley Wilson. And she gives a testimony. If you,
He's trying to
it's a public
give you a
service.
few years there.
Public service
Exactly.
announcement that we as WRTX did for us, and we're trying to promote the program. And she talks about how it transformed her lives. This is the 50th anniversary of Urban League. You're going to see more testimony. You're going to see grandparents talk about how this program saved their children, their grandchildren's lives. You're going to hear parents talking about, if it had not been for this program, my child would have been a gangbanger or dead. So we've gone back, and we've gotten testimonies for this program. And I think it's one of the greatest investments we can make. When people talk about youth employment, I'm so proud to talk about Columbia. That's making a difference, you know, because we believe in investing in our children. So Daniel, you asked what it means. I mean, the impact we've received from young people.
I'm trying to understand, really, JT, is how many of those kids then go on for other jobs, and do they have other opportunities during that summer period? I think it's a wonderful program, but how do we make it a better program, and how do we reach more kids and make the employment longer, and how do we tie in the business community a little stronger? I think that's kind of where, you know, we're at a point where it's got to be more than that period, and how do we get there? And
Well, it's a foundation. Let me talk. If that's a good question you ask. You know, when you talk about work ethics, you have people graduating from college don't have work ethic skills. They don't know how to work. And I can tell you, employers I serve on the state workforce board. Employers will tell you we need soft skills. What this program does, it teaches young people work ethics. It gives them a foundation. When I go to Publix, I go to Kroger's, when I go to other places, and they say, Mr. McLaughlin, I got my start at Urban League. So to answer your question, it provides a foundation for these kids. It gives them the skills to be able to go into another stage. You know, this is just a foundation. It provides a foundation for you to climb the ladder of success and career opportunities, you know. Yes.
Yeah.
Please, Davis.
JT, along those lines, I remember some years ago you and I talked about the quality experiences or jobs that are meaningful, and the purpose was to also provide work experience that's career oriented.
Yes.
Do you keep statistics on the number of kids that may have had a pretty good job match and had sort of moved on to a specific career that was specifically the result of the summer program?
We don't keep empirical data on that, but we do get a lot of responses from people and family members telling us testimonials about what the program has done for them. You know, but what we try to do, Sam, Councilman Davis, I'm glad you raised that question. We try to connect young people with areas where they have a career interest. The University of South Carolina has been a great partner for us. We've had young people go through the program at USC. We had a couple of kids enter the honor college by doing an internship at USC. We have probably about 15% of our kids that come through the program. Employers ask them to come to work beyond the extent of the program. So they're so interested in them that they would begin to pay for them to go through the program. The challenge we have for kids who are 14, 15 years old, the business community do not want to pay minimum wage. They say these kids aren't productive. It's not cost beneficial for us to pay minimum wage. Minimum wage is too high. To hire a kid 14 years old who has no skills, you know, you got to be 14 years old to work according to child labor law. So what we have created is an opportunity to give these kids these skill sets so that when they go to an employer, they do have some value in essence, you know, and the employer feel more comfortable in providing minimum wage. Councilman Duvall.
JT, give me description about how the program works? It's 2-week modules?
Yes.
Do they stay on campus? Where do you do the training?
This is how it works. So, I want to just thank City Manager Wilson, because when she worked at the University of South Carolina, she kind of helped us. So we have orientation at the University of South Carolina. So every kid that goes through the program goes through a job orientation or work ethics training. We have Professor Lopez Mendez comes in. He's been our consultant training for years. So he comes in and he teaches them how to how to communicate, verbal and nonverbal. Verbal and nonverbally, because a lot of times, young people it's send a wrong message. So we take them through that process, how to make eye contact, how to shake hands. And then we, in our orientation, we tell them about the do's and don'ts in the work environment. That you can't go in there and talk on your cell phone. You can't move things that don't belong to you. So we go through that protocol with them. There's an evaluation when they go through the program. They have to write an essay about what the program meant to them. The site supervisor does an evaluation about the program. They do not get paid until those documents are in. We also have an orientation. We got one that's coming Thursday for supervisors. We want to make sure they understand what their responsibilities are. So we go through this process with them. And we got a manual that we give to them. And every student who goes through the program has a guideline, rules and guidelines for participation. And then we do a parent orientation also. And during the parent orientation, we do provide an opportunity for school officials to come to talk about the importance of having parents more engaged and partnering with the school system. So there's a lot of tentacles that come together when we bring this program together. We have incorporated, and I want to thank Councilmember Divine, financial literacy in essence, because young people got to understand money management and things of this nature. They don't stay on campus. What the university does is, if a kid is interested in engineering, we'll place them in the School of Engineering, interested in medicine, interested in physical therapy or something like that. University has all these different outlets. So they work in those environments, and they have a schedule. So they work, they get a stipend. So like I said, we don't pay them minimum wage. They get a stipend because we call it the work experience. And we set it up so the employer has no liability. We take care of all the workers' comp because they're really working for the Urban League. We just assigning them to this work site.
The Urban League has done amazingly well over the years in creating a culture where young folk are brought in, trained 4 to 6 weeks, however that works out. The $250 is just menial for a kid who gets a wealth of experience.
Yes.
It's almost like a token.
That's right.
That you're going, and I think this is what Sam was getting at. It's almost like a token because we're hoping that that person is going to experience not only $250, but a wealth of experiences as it relates to what's going to take place afterwards.
That's correct. Yes.
Let me ask you this. There is in the budget, participatory-wise, proposed participatory-wise, 750 persons. What was, and I guess the thing that I'd really like to see is, what was we had 550 last year, and we're gonna push it up to 750?
Yeah. We can scale it back. Yeah, we just
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You get the right word, JT. And I'm not saying, I really wish we could do 1,000.
Yeah.
But budget-wise, can we do that?
Well, we used to do about 400, and thanks to your visionary mayor, he told us we can do better. And so, we lift the bar up. And I really think that, whatever we can meet with the city, wherever we can intersect is fine. I think we just need to try to push this water bill check off a little more. And I think we need to encourage people to support it. You know, I have a lot of people tell me they want to help young people out. They want to make a difference in the lives of young people. So, but I can't hire anybody. I don't have a place. But you can donate $5 or $10. You know, I sell $1. We can $5 or $10 one-time donation. You know, and I think we have the right marketing campaign. We can do it, in essence. But I think that, you know, we have not invested in marketing this program. Like anything you do, you got to have a marketing strategy, in essence.
Oh, see, a part of that, of course, is, I mean, it's too late now to do it this year, but of course, it would certainly be good if we could roll out something to say to businesses, small businesses, can you sponsor
Yes.
5 kids?
That's right.
Can you sponsor a child? Can you make a donation? I think that there are some real creative ways we could sort of configure that
Yes.
and make it real doable.
We do have churches sponsor young
Okay.
people. My church, St. John Baptist Church, sponsors about 5 young people, and we have several other churches that sponsor young people. We have the Richland County Deacon Association. I think they sponsor maybe 2 children, you know. But I do think that there's an opportunity. We always said to churches, most churches have youth ministries, in essence. We said this is a good way for you to sponsor your children to participate too. So I think I think you're absolutely right. I think we can develop other ways of bringing revenues, but I think it's going to take a joint venture with the city of Columbia, all us working together. Chief Holbrook, I referenced the police department. I think the important role, you know, one time, you know, Chief, one time we had billboards. We used to have billboards all over town. We had billboards everywhere in the 80s. It said, "Stop the violence, hire youth." Stop the violence, hire youth. I mean, it was over-exaggerated because, you know, every youth person is not violent. But sometimes you have to get the attention, and it worked effectively. And I just want to share with you all, too. We raised $10,000 in 1 week for Crime Stoppers. We were giving people money if they were called Crime Stoppers to report an illegal firearm, working in conjunction with the Columbia Police Department. We raised $10,000 in 1 week. So we're telling these kids, you know, you at school, somebody packing at school, or you in the neighborhood, somebody packing. You know, I know you know, if somebody around me packing, I'll get nervous because it may go fool instead of shooting somebody. So we tell young people, you have an opportunity to call Crime Stoppers and report this. We had commercials all on TV and everything with law enforcement during those days, you know. And,
I think what's critical, though, right now is that whether it's 750 or 450,
Yes.
we need to get those kids, they need to do something this summer.
Yes.
And I think.
Guys, we got the money for this summer. We got
18.
Yeah, we got the money for this summer. And I want to thank City Council, in particular Mayor Benjamin, because Wells Fargo came to you all, and you all didn't think it was robbery, said support the Urban League. So we all right. I'll tell you, we all right this year. We thank you, Mayor, City Council.
Well, I guess that's the question, though. That's what we need clarity on.
That's what
So
I'm
the
saying.
But if we are budgeting for 2018.
For next year.
2018.
We're gonna have to do it for this
See,
budget year.
yeah.
So just keep that in
Yeah.
mind.
See, with our budget this year, we got $25,000 from Wells. We didn't put that in 2018 budget. We got $100,000 from Wells Fargo. We got $25,000 from Bank of America,
We should.
and we got $20,000 from someone else. And so then we got $75,000 to propose from Richland County. So, but those are those non-reoccurring funds, in essence. We're not talking about this summer.
Okay, so we just want to be clear that for the summer of 2017,
We okay.
we're okay.
Yes.
You're not looking for
No,
funds from
no,
the
we're good.
city
Okay,
because of
good.
that allocation.
But-
So as we do this, as we're about to approve and discuss the 17-18 budget, you're looking for inclusion in the 17-18 budget.
Yes.
Which would include funds, would be funds for the summer of 2018.
That's correct.
And this gives us an opportunity to do a couple of different things. You know, over the last 2 quarters of this year, really actively promoting the water bill insert and however we want to encourage people to participate. And then also working together, because I know there's probably only but so much that JT has. They have the big EOD event at the end of the year, so other private sector participation, us kind of circling the wagons and asking for private sector participation to support the program as well. But no, we usually wind up, we run the program and then we come back and we kind of back fund. This is an opportunity looking forward to go ahead and make a decision that we're going to do X amount and obviously spend the time doing the aggressive advertising and promoting over the course of the next couple of quarters where we got a little on-ramp and make a decision, and maybe a final decision, at least internally, as to what we're going to do maybe at the end of if it's in the first quarter of 18 or into the second quarter of the next budget, just so we know where we are, and we're not banking on the come, but might be coming. So,
I mean, well, that helps. That gives us a little clarity on that part. I think the other thing, though, that we need to be clear on, as far as whatever funds that get generated through water checkoff, that's specifically for the program, and we're fine on that. But based on any money that we have in general fund, so that we're compliant with public use doctrine or whatever it's called, that we need to do a contract for service and have some very clear understanding as to what money we contribute, where it goes in the budget.
That's right.
So the budget request that you sent that said FY 17-18 is not for this summer.
Not for this summer, no.
All right, that's,
So you don't need any funds for this summer.
No, we don't need any funds.
Excellent.
but you gladly take some.
Excellent news.
Now, let me tell you something.
You gladly take some.
this is a chance to prepare.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I told my staff, I said, no, we can't bring in no more kids. We got a budget now. This is a tight budget, in essence, we close it down. I think we're serving 400 kids or so with the budget we got now, and that's it
For this summer.
for this summer.
So it's projected 750 for 2018-19.
But we don't.
Well,
No,
for
we just put that in.
Summer 18.
Summer
For
18.
the summer of 18.
Yeah.
And Ed, some of us weren't here. From that perspective, the Urban League has religiously served a certain number of students for years. And I guess 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we had some surplus, and we went ahead anticipating that money being available after the first quarter of the year. We intentionally defunded some funds that were going to the jail, and diverted them directly towards the Urban League SWELT program as a clear example of what our commitment was, and asked the Urban League to expand its efforts. So this does give us some time, if we do the things we're all supposed to do now, to really go into summer 18 with a very clear idea as to what it's going to require collectively to make things very successful. But JT, we appreciate you. We appreciate the Urban League.
Thank you,
All the work you do.
Thank you very much.
50 years in Columbia.
50 years.
50 years in Columbia. Probably on almost half of that on this partnership with Swell.
I tell people when I came to Urban League, I was a 12-year-old child. That's 50 years. 50 years old.
Child prodigy.
Well, thank y'all very much. I appreciate y'all commitment. I'm so proud of the city of Columbia. So when I travels around and speak with my colleagues in the Urban League movement around the country, and they talk about, what we gonna do about summer jobs? I said, well, you know what? We got a community
Just eat the whole.
that's invested in our young people. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Our next presentation is an update from Senior Resources. Ms. Pam Dukes, Executive Director of Senior Resources.
Going from one extreme to the other. Young people, now seniors.
Thanks.
Howard, you need to turn around and listen to this.
You need to stay in here.
Oh, does this work, Pat? Good afternoon, I'm Pam Dukes, Executive Director for Senior Resources. I just wanted to give y'all an update on the good work that we've been able to do this year with your assistance. This doesn't, is not working this. Can I stand over there?
Sorry,
Oh, okay. That's okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you. Okay, last year, we served over 91,000 hot and frozen meals in our Meals on Wheels program. As of April 30th this year, we've already hit 101, and we're on track to serve over 120,000 meals this year. A lot of that is because of funding from the City of Columbia, so thank you. Home care is a program we have that provides assistance with cleaning house, laundry, and other things that people need to do around their home to live independently. And right now, we have 173 seniors waiting for home care services. This is the last step for those frail seniors before they have to go into an institution. And this is the program right now that we're having the most difficulty getting funding for. We operate 4 wellness centers in Richland County. Most of the Columbia residents utilize the one up in North Columbia that's on Bishop Avenue. And here we bring seniors from their home to go to the wellness center, have a noontime meal, physical fitness activities, and socialization with their peers. And you can see we had a visitor to one of our centers earlier. They love to see the mayor come. And Councilman Duvall and Councilwoman Devine were also there. We have a foster grandparent program that provides tutoring, mentoring, guidance, and unconditional love to third graders. And primarily they're assisting with reading skills because we know if a child isn't reading by third grade that they're not likely to do very well in school. So this program has a 95% success rate of children who are paired with a foster grandparent end up being promoted to the next grade. So it's a very successful program. We have a senior companion program where seniors are volunteering to provide companionship to other seniors and provide respite for family caregivers. If you've ever been a family caregiver or cared for someone, you know that that's a 24/7 job, and it is very important that you get a break every once in a while. So that's what senior companions do. And in exchange for their service, because they are low income, they can receive benefits such as a stipend, transportation reimbursement, training, and we also provide annual physicals to them. A new service we have is called Senior Wheels. This is a service that provides transportation to and from medical appointments and related services like a pharmacy. This is the service that we had requested most often that we were not providing. And so we got us a van, and this year we started providing this service of transportation. Very important for seniors living at home to be able to get to their medical appointments. We do a food co-op, and we have other food services. We have a food co-op that we establish in areas of the county that were considered food deserts. And so we operate one out of Park Street Baptist and one out of Greenview Park, where we purchase the fresh produce in bulk, put it in bags, and then sell it for $5. But it's really much more than $5 worth of produce. And these have been very successful program in providing fresh fruit and vegetables to residents. We also have a food pantry with senior-friendly foods that provides food to those on our waiting list. And this year, we're taking over the State Farmers Market Nutrition Voucher Program that DSS runs for Richland County. So we have, the majority of our agency is geared toward food and getting seniors food. Good news and bad news. The good news, as I mentioned, is that with help from the City of Columbia, we've reduced our waiting list for Meals on Wheels from 271 a year ago to about 84 right now. So that is incredible. But we're still maintaining the growing waiting list for home care services. South Carolina is 4th worst in the nation for seniors facing hunger and food insecurity. So that means that about 2,000 elderly in Columbia every night go to bed hungry. Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You say the meals decreased from whatever it was to 84?
Yes, sir.
Why the decrease?
Because of funding.
The waiting, okay.
Funding from the City of Columbia. We have also aggressively sought private funding, and we have some great funding partners, and they've kind of stepped up this year also to help reduce that waiting list.
And you remember last year we stepped it up big time.
Yes.
Got that waiting list down significantly.
Yes.
How many seniors did you say going hungry every night?
About 2,000.
How many groups serve the seniors in Columbia?
Well, I can tell you that we receive our funding through the Lieutenant Governor's Office on Aging and from the feds through the Older Americans Act. So we are the designated Council on Aging for Richland County. And our services are provided to the neediest of the needy, and we do an assessment to make sure we're doing that. There are other groups, there's churches who provide services. There may even be a couple of parks that provide services. But to my knowledge, the ones who do it like we do it's us. We serve all of Richland County, and that was my next, you can see the red circles are our current clients and blue are waitlisted clients. We serve the entire county, although primarily who we serve are in the city of Columbia because that's where the population is. But to my knowledge, there is no one else in Richland County who serves the entire county like we do in the manner that we do. No one else that I know of provides Meals on Wheels. So we're the only provider of Meals on Wheels.
Is there a way to incorporate some of the churches with their outreach programs and other things to enhance your program? I know we do, my church does a lot with St. Lawrence Place, but I don't think we've ever had anybody come and talk to us about senior resources or the senior population, which, you know, I guess a lot of people just, sometimes you're thinking families there, and you're not thinking, you know, these folks who need that gap
Right.
service.
Right. Well, a couple of things. We do receive support from a lot of churches in Columbia, and I would be glad to come talk to your church. Just contact me, and I'd be glad to come talk to someone. We have a lot of churches who volunteer to deliver Meals on Wheels, so we would love to, you know, expand and have more support in the communities. Oftentimes, people just don't realize the need. They don't realize that that elderly person they see down the road doesn't have family here. You know, and so.
What would it, from a financial standpoint, what does it take for you to serve a client?
To serve one senior Meals on Wheels for a year is $1,920, so just under $2,000.
Okay.
So that 84 waiting list, you know, it's about $170,000 to eliminate the waiting list. Home care is a little bit more expensive because that's going to someone's home a couple times a week, and they do it for several hours at a time. So that's a little bit more expensive. But $170,000 is about what it would take for Meals on Wheels. So any other questions?
What was the total from the city of Columbia last year, Pam?
$135,000.
Man, was that 5 days or 7 days a week?
Right now, it's just 5 days a week, 1 meal a day. Yes.
Ms. Devine?
The home service, one, how do you fund that piece of what y'all do?
The same way through funding from the Lieutenant Governor's Office on Aging and funding from the Older Americans Act.
The impactation of meals, there's been a lot of talk about Meals on Wheels being cut on the federal level.
Yes, sir.
How does that, how would that hypothetically impact your budget?
Well, at Senior Resources, about 38% of our funding for meals comes from the federal government. 38%. Yes, so if that money were eliminated, you're talking about 30 to 35,000 meals a year that would not be served. That's about 150 people. So we could potentially lose, if that funding were cut, we could lose 150 people off of our Meals on Wheels rolls. Yes. Any other questions? Two things before I go. I have invitations for you all, for each of you. If you would like to come visit with our senior companions or foster grandparents, I have invitations for you all to do that. And then I have one other special presentation. Last year, the mayor was instrumental in working with the Walmart Foundation to get seniors in Richland County more food. And Walmart Foundation donated $25,000 for senior food last year. The mayor came out to Bishop Avenue along with Councilman Duvall and Councilwoman Devine to hand out food boxes to those seniors. The mayor went further and came to our foster grandparents and senior companions in service to hand out food to them. And he has, on several occasions, visited our foster grandparents and senior companions to talk to them and express his support for senior services in the city of Columbia. And so our senior companions and foster grandparents have prepared thank you cards for Mayor Benjamin. Every one of them prepared one. for you. So I would like to just read you one of them. This is from a lady, Elizabeth Mack Darby, who's a foster grandparent. And she says, "Thank you for all that you have done for us foster grandparents. You make it possible for us to help someone in our older age. This also keeps us active and have a reason to get up every day and be out and about. This means so much to the foster grandparent program. Again, thank you, and God bless you, Mayor Benjamin." So I have all these thank you cards.
We're all gonna need a great pick-me-up after tonight's meeting, I think.
We're gonna need some senior care.
Man, it goes without saying that we're all so thankful for the work that you and your staff and your board do every single day. You're taking care of the people who took care of us,
Exactly.
and we don't take that for granted.
Thank you.
And still take care of our kids, like foster grandparents are at the schools.
Absolutely.
And my kids love foster grandparents.
That's actually pretty nice. I got an idea. Depends on how bad you guys will work this out. I got an idea.
Thank you.
It'll be a little crazy, but it's doable.
It'll be just a second. Missy's coming back in. We'll move to the next item.
Good thing we started early, because it's now 2:00 and we're just getting to the budget.
I know.
Is that we're talking?
I was saying earlier, 2 o'clock or 12, it said to be done. Of course, I should have known better.
Skip, would you like a
Jan had
Blondie?
one. She said it was very good.
He wasn't in here before. They're blondies,
Shutting down.
the vanilla brown.
Yeah, I actually thought it was an acquisition or redevelopment.
Sam, get him one.
Hey, Glenn. How you doing?
Right, too good. Be arrested if they're too good, man. They're good. Around my diabetes.
Daily gets definitely that was the space.
Good feeling.
I love Sweet Temptation.
What is it next thing?
Well, you can move it.
It is
As long as it's
a
synced, but then
standalone building next
Well, they
to
want to make like here,
Hampton
of course,
Kitchen.
we control the parking.
If you're go, if, right, as soon as you cross
Going
over
down North
Elmwood,
Main.
as soon as you cross over Elmwood, look to your left, and then it's a building,
take these
it's
three out.
got a big sign.
Take these three out,
Almost directly across from where Jim Hudson, or
Okay.
where the Cadillac place
further
is.
away.
And it's called.
then you have a bigger buffer.
It's called Sweet Temptation. But that's called,
It's on your left.
I'm talking about the bread.
yeah, it's called Blondie.
On your left. On your left.
Assess value, which I know is low.
I got addicted to the thing.
Hot mic, boy.
That thing, huh?
Hot mics.
Yeah. He's talking about a dessert.
I'm
He's
taking,
talking about a
I'm
dessert.
talking about a dessert. Somebody hears that. Councilman Love Prairie.
We had the police department.
Across the street from there.
I thought I had one of these. Yeah, I thought I had one.
He gets a space, he gets his own.
That's all he needs. That's why he didn't do it the first time.
I just don't, I don't know. The boss. He's from Howard
I
Neck
didn't know if
Woods.
she's gonna be here.
Macby.
Like if she's, like,
You know, William Otis is the operating partner now.
she's checking to see if.
Yeah, that's where I see him recently.
You know, William. Yeah. He just by,
I was like, they kind of wrapped up quicker than I thought.
he will sit down with him.
Huh?
Is that what they're thinking?
But see, I think his works.
The question is, if that works, we shut down. I don't.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. We can get started.
Good.
We're, at the point with the budget workshops to really wrap things up, so we're really looking forward to some, hard discussions, but definite, feedback regarding wrapping up the general fund in particular. Ms. Kaufman will go through an all fund summary and wrap up, and we'll go from there with any questions or clarifications. Yes, and final actions. Thank you.
I got a either can we move the first budget hearing from the 6th to the 13th, or I'll have to voicemail because I am not gonna be here. I did not have my schedule done correctly.
From the 6th to the 13th, Mr. Rickaman.
Yeah.
So,
Let's, calendar-wise, Missy, help us, let's just flip to the calendar.
I prefer not to be remote on
Sure.
an issue like this.
Sure.
But unfortunately, I just looked at my calendar.
Schedule-wise, we go forward, we can't come back, so this point, Teresa, yeah, well, yeah, it would be June the 13th, and then the second reading of June 20th, so that would be the week in between. So logistically, legal-wise, ordinance-wise, it's allowable, I think it's just a question of scheduling.
so you would want us to move both the healthcare discussion and the public hearing? On the budget?
What now?
So both the healthcare discussion, so you thinking not have a 6 meeting, but move?
I mean, I hate to ask that, but I mean, I just, there's,
Do you want to do public hearing on the 6th and first reading on the 13th? Or
could do
both
that.
together?
You could do that.
Public hearing would be when we present the budget and final.
I wouldn't have a problem with that, because that'd give people an opportunity to digest it.
That's just another suggestion for council, but then if you
Yeah,
don't have
but-
anything on the 6th.
Because I was just saying, the only thing for me is I have that second and fourth Tuesday conflict. The 13th, I have the kids, so I can't do an evening meeting. But if we're coming to vote, I can come vote and leave if we did it that way. Did like a public hearing on the 6th, and then, because otherwise I may could get a babysitter, but I couldn't say today. I couldn't say right this second if I could get a babysitter for that night.
Based on the schedule as it is, we would need to know, we would need to advertise the schedule, the dates by this Thursday.
By Thursday.
Using the June 6th date. If we do push it out, then, unless the public hearing is set on the 6th, we would still proceed with advertisement this week. If the first reading is pushed to the 13th, that wouldn't have any bearing on changing the schedule, the publication schedule.
We'd just move the June 6th meeting to the 13th.
Well, I think Ms. Devine was saying that would eliminate her, I guess, being there for everything.
If we did the 13th.
I mean, you're saying you could maybe come if it's only to vote. But I guess we would be having a meeting just to vote on the budget versus anything else, any other action items. I mean, we certainly could. I mean, that's up to you all. If you want to just have two meetings in June versus
Give me a few minutes. Let me figure out that. I'll see if I can get somebody on the vote. You got girls. You might get. You give me a babysitter. I'll be.
Mike could do that.
Thanks, Nikki.
well, I need another. This is a new one.
It is.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we should wait.
There's 4 here.
Let's just wait a moment.
taking a 5-minute break or something?
Can we?
I don't know what it is.
I like.
Is it 5 minute break?
Well, no, we were just giving Mr. Vine time to find out if the schedule, we're trying to figure out the scheduling for the,
Are we back talking about 6 still?
Yeah.
So is that 13? What's our,
It-
what's our space in
Miss-
between?
The city manager suggested, go ahead, do the public hearing, and then just have the vote on the 13th. That way, you presented the budget, and it's just a vote. That way, if people got questions or whatever, they could just,
What's the spacing need to be between votes?
1 week.
Just 1 week?
Oh, between the public hearing and the first reading? That doesn't
Do it
No,
matter.
the
no,
same
no,
day.
I wasn't talking about that.
Between first
votes.
reading and
1
second
week.
reading,
1
just
week.
1 vote.
That'll work. I can be here on the
13th and
13th.
20th?
you can be
Is the
here on
vote-
the
votes
13th?
13th and 20th?
does that work? I mean, I hate to inconvenience everybody, but.
Is that doing
My-
everything
that
on
was
the
my
13th or
scheduling
just the
error.
first reading?
Well, I
Is it doing
think it's
healthcare?
the will of council. I mean, certainly if we could just, if you can condense everything into 2 meetings versus having June 6th and then just coming to vote on the 13th. Or if you all prefer to continue on with June 6th meeting like it would normally be and the public hearing, and then you'd only be coming to vote on the 13th. But that just seems like a extra meeting just to come vote versus just having the 13th and the 20th.
And when do they want to do it?
I guess we would do everything that we would have been doing on the 6th, we would do it on the 13th.
Practice, I think.
Is that okay?
Would that
I'm,
be,
I'm asking council their
Would that-
preference
my wife's got surgery that day, so I couldn't be there during the day. I'd have to
on the
come at night
13th.
on the 13th.
Yes, sir. Okay, well then,
If it's a night meeting, I think I could come. If you do a 6 o'clock meeting,
That's fine.
I couldn't do a 2 o'clock meeting.
yes, sir. Well, the healthcare discussion probably needs to be at a work session format.
No, I know we need to get into that, but
I
we're
mean,
not
we
gonna be
could-
making any
no.
decisions right now, so we could just move that to another day.
Right.
Move that after
Could
the,
do it on the
after budget.
20th.
Why don't we just move it to after the budget? Well,
What-
budget will be done, so.
Yeah, you'll have first reading already.
Okay, so is that the will of
Going
council
once,
to move
going
the
twice?
So
meeting, the June 6th meeting to June 13th?
Huh?
All of
Night, 6.
night?
Guess
June
what?
9th?
They're on the pay side. They'll come when we tell them.
Is that okay?
We're the
Ms. Mayor,
client.
everyone?
So being the
Again?
6th, the 13th, or just the 13th,
It would be an evening meeting on June 13th
that will also be the public hearing, and we're gonna act.
and first reading, yes, sir.
Which is what we were gonna do on the 6th.
No meeting on the 6th.
No meeting on the 6th.
I'm asking you all. It's up, it doesn't matter.
Isn't it D-Day?
I mean, that's fine
You
with
should take
us.
D-Day it's fine with me.
Okay. And then no work session on the 6th,
13th and 21st. The 20th, I'm sorry, 13th and 20th. Yes, sir.
and no work
So
session on the
nothing on the
13th.
6th.
Unless we can get Dreer done by then.
Nothing on the 6th.
Right.
13th.
So
Yeah,
we
you know.
canceling the 6th.
Canceling the 6th and no work session on the 13th, just the evening meeting on the 13th.
That's probably vacation after school anyway.
I can do that.
And we'll move the healthcare discussion to probably the 20th or
We're
there.
aggressive with healthcare this year, y'all.
Creative.
Creatively aggressive.
Ms. Moore, that you can
Radically
all that.
pragmatic.
You said no work session on the 13th.
Yes, ma'am. All right, thank you. Missy?
All right. Good afternoon. Again, we are here for our final budget work session with you
Really?
regarding the FY 17-18 proposed budget. So today, we will touch on, and this will not be a completely redo of everything that you've seen, but just various highlights of a number of the items presented to you over the past several weeks with regards to the general fund, for which we have 2 proposed budgets for you. Under the enterprise funds, that would be inclusive of water and sewer, stormwater, and parking fund. Special revenues, which would be hospitality tax and accommodations tax, parking fund, and then capital improvement program, for water and sewer and stormwater are the only capital improvement programs presented to you for approval at this time, or will be presented for approval. The total proposed operating budget for FY 17-18 is $329,857,239. Again, it includes general fund, parking, stormwater, water and sewer, hospitality, and accommodations for the operating funds. With the largest portion of that, all funds being water and sewer at 47%, it has now surpassed the general fund, which is now 44% of the total operating budget. Of course, we've focused in on the budget this year, as guiding our budget decision, recommendations and bringing forward to you as the city manager prepared her budget was the 2036 vision statement focus areas, the 7 focus areas and the 5 goals that have been approved and moved forward by city council. Budget issues that have affected the budget this year that we have brought forth to you over this period. We've categorized as obligations, immediate needs, and wants. The budget overall has referenced indications regarding obligations. We've touched on some of the immediate needs and have addressed wants as well. First off, with the general fund budget, as presented to you and discussed, there are 2 proposed budgets. One is the city manager's proposed budget, and the second is an alternative budget. Both budgets are now in balance, but both have different approaches to how we balance the budgets. In both budgets, just so it's clear on both ends, both of them do take into account additional adjustments to the indirect cost allocation from water and sewer, and we've now added one from stormwater. Those were discussed at the last council meeting with regards to the indirect cost allocation. Those would be the services that the general fund provides to our enterprise funds by means of a variety of usually back office type operations, but also could be administrative and other management type of services as well. So the 2 budgets that are presented to you.
This one answers my question. So basically, the city manager's budget includes the step for the public safety and the COLA for the employees, and the alternative budget doesn't.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
When did the COLA start in the city managers?
The COLAs in the city managers starts in January, so it's only a partial year cost of living. The STEP program would start immediately. Since it's based on anniversary dates of the employees, it would be in effect in July of this year.
It's in both of those budgets, both the city manager and the alternative budget.
The alternative,
Maybe I don't see it. Where's fire and CPD? Where's fire and police?
Police and fire in the general fund?
Yeah.
Well, they would be covered in both.
He's asking how are they accounted for? It's only in the city manager proposed budget right now, Mr.
Okay.
So yes, the city manager's proposed budget includes the partial year funding for the cost of living adjustments, and it also includes the public safety retention program, the step-based program, step-based pay. And the alternative budget does not
Included.
Does not.
Okay.
Of course, the funding, the city manager's proposed budget does reflect the 2 mills. Or consider those being the 2 mills that were lost in 2014.
Basically, it's reinstating what our property taxes were for 15-16.
14-15. This is the second year without them.
Oh, is it second?
So it's 2 mills.
Which is about how much on $100,000?
$1,000,001.
About $16,000. I mean $16.
$16.
Ooh, sorry. About $16. $16,000 wouldn't have an issue. If no other questions about that, we'll proceed with the general fund. The general fund revenues The majority of the general fund revenue is 38% property tax, and another 29% makes up licenses and permits. Of course, those two combined make up the majority of the revenues in the general fund. The general fund city manager's proposed budget is a net increase of $7 million or 6% over the current fiscal year. The revenues total $131 million with an increase of $7.1 million or 6%. Of course, the majority of that being, as mentioned, property taxes, business license, and permits.
What is Central Stores?
Central Stores is our internal service fund, fleet services, procurement. They're like internal business units, services externally throughout the city, or within the city. Transfers and other financing sources and uses is $11 million. That's a reduction of $3.3 million or 23%. The majority of that 3% reduction comes from reducing the amount we would borrow from the capital lease program for capital replacement. So in both cases, both proposed budgets reflect a reduction of our capital replacement program from $8 million to $4 million. That was one of the budget balancing options that we presented to you at the last meeting. Other financing sources would be the 7% or $7 million. Transfers at this point, transfers in from other funds reflect about 3% of the total general fund revenue. The alternative budget is a total of $141 million, and of course it does not include the 2 mills, which generate about $1.1 million, what we've estimated. Each mill is estimated at $560,000, adjusted for collection rates. Just some background information about our millage information. Our current millage is 96.1. The proposed 2 mills would take it up to 98.1. Most of this I've already mentioned in terms of looking at our assessments. We see some fairly healthy growth in our assessments in the past 2 years. As we stretch it over the past 5 to 10 years, it's a little thinner. Hopefully, the 2 years is more of an indication of where we're going with our growth and what we're seeing in our overlying areas. Just some budget highlights from the 17-18. Of course, as we mentioned before, the department's budget, even though it is an increase, we scaled back requests from departments and other items over $10 million. That also includes the scale back of our capital replacement program. However, the budget, even though it is a scaled back version from what was originally requested, it does still meet obligations that we've spelled out. We are addressing immediate needs for providing basic services and trying to move forward with some of the Envision Columbia work plan initiatives. All departments' budgets reflect increases for healthcare and state retirement and some other operational increases, but by far the most widespread and broadest increase is for the healthcare and state retirement. And state retirement and healthcare also is increased on the employee side as well. We have also included funding for new and expanded programs. Each year, the general fund has been able to take on either some new or expanded programs. This year, yes, sir.
Question on the pension increases. We still don't know if the state budget is going to adopt the Senate's version or the House version.
I haven't heard anything more.
Do you know what the difference is? How much will the 1% be on the House side?
We've reflected the increase in the revenues on the Senate side. I think the House side is more of a smaller dollar increase, but it's more of a matter of reducing how much they cover for. It depends on how they allocate it.
That was in the previous. That was in the previous slide, wasn't it?
I think the difference in the two amounts there is about $600,000.
So
between the Senate and the House.
But you've got the more expensive in the budget, so if they happen to pick the House budget, we pick up $600,000.
Well, we would pick up 600, but that's citywide, so that wouldn't all be general fund.
Right.
Okay.
We did.
Probably about 60%.
So the budget does include funding for annexation, some expanded annexation programs. We have included some funding for walk bike initiatives, greenway operations and expansions, and of course, major, maintenance at major corridors and full funding for the no-kill shelter. We have some funding in for the continuation of the capital replacement program, and then, of course, the minimal funding for the partial year cost of living and public safety retention program. Skip to the next slide and come back. Just seeing a breakout of the department's budgets by the city's the general fund budget by category. You can see percentage-wise or proportionally, public safety makes up the largest portion of the general fund budget. More than double the next size, almost 3 times the next largest budget.
Cut down on your dry cleaning.
Public Works, general government is a collection of administration, city clerk, HR, legal. That's a variety of different offices included in general government. And of course, Parks and Recreation. And then near the top, we have development services and planning, and then community development.
So that breaks down to what? Is that about half public safety?
Bless you.
I believe so when we have, yes, it's about right at half.
Do you want us to stop and debate the general fund before we get into the second part of your?
Yeah, because we only have, this is the last slide on the general fund, and then next we move on to water and sewer, so we can either stop here or.
Well, let's talk about the general fund, since we're on the general fund. I want to propose that we adopt at least the city manager's budget with the 2 mil recapture of the 2 mils that escaped a couple of years ago. Several reasons for that. Number one, there is a 3-year go back on millage capture. We're at 6.5 mils now that we can go back and capture. If we don't take them in the 3 mil window, then we lose those millages forever. We can't go back and get them. This is one of the years where the 3rd year is an important year for us. If we don't take advantage of it this year, we can't take advantage of it next year. So we go back down to about 4 or 3 mills that we could recoup based on our population increase and the cost of living. So I think it behooves us not to lose what we have banked, and that gives us 2 mills. I think that we have stressed the general fund to the point where we can't provide the services that the city of Columbia as a capital city and state needs. I know that all of us hate to raise taxes. We pay taxes just like everybody else. And this is an election year, so some of you will be on the ballot. And I think we've got good reasons to go back and get those 2 mills. I think about the people in Columbia, the employees of the city of Columbia, not only public safety, but go back and think about what happened in October of 2015 when we had 4 of our employees in the water and sewer department volunteer to take a very dangerous position during the flood and keep the city from having raw sewage run out of all the manholes around the city. These are type line employees that we have in the city of Columbia that need to have livable wages. These are the people that we need to take care of, and I would like to get that cost of living at least back up to July 1, give them a full year of the cost of living. And we can't do that if we're continually stressing the general fund with failure to take advantage of the revenue sources that we have. So I would support at least the city manager's form. I would like to go further than the city manager would go and put some more money in there. But at least this takes care of a cost of living, takes care of our public safety steps, and we need to do that. while I have the floor, I have been doodling over the last 24 hours with some help from staff that gave me some information. I think we have got to face the reality of our health care costs. We cannot continue to have a $30 million hit on our budgets that is growing at a rate of 8% a year. And we need to look hard at the Aon, it's on our budget, on our agenda tonight. We're gonna hire a new consultant. We need to push them hard to look at ways that we can reduce the cost of our health care plan on the City of Columbia. I went through, and this is only a doodle, this is not an accurate description of things, but number one, we have 2,438 participants in our health care. 1,288 of those, 53% of the people on our health care plan are only the employee or the retiree. They're not covering spouse, child, or family. So 53% of our people are only covering themselves. We have 1,150 that take either a spouse, a child, or family coverage. So 53% of our employees are being charged at the same $11,000 per employee as the individual employee that's only getting the employee coverage. And this is where it gets a little shaky according to what Missy and I have talked about a few minutes ago. But what I did is I went back and looked at the city contribution rates for all the different classifications, and I subtracted the employee retiree only amount from the next amount, which is employee spouse, and then the next amount, which is employee child, and the next amount, employee family. And I made a little chart of the difference in the base, the core, and the buy-up plans for each one of those categories to come up with a dollar amount difference. For instance, if you look at the retiree only and the retiree plus spouse, the retiree only is $495.67, and the retiree spouse is $984.23. That's $488 difference in that. I did that for all the classifications, and then I multiplied them times the top figures that show me how many are in the base, how many in the core, how many in the buy-up, based on just the employee, employee spouse, employee child, employee family. And multiplying that times the difference, it comes up to about $8.5 million that we're investing in the 47% of our employees that get more than the employee coverage. And I think that is the area where we can pare down the responsibility of the City of Columbia and free up revenue that can then be used for not only programs like the two that we've heard this afternoon, but the basic salaries for our employees. That's a rough figure. I don't think there's anywhere. I don't think it's very far off, but I can't.
But the number is based on the majority of what our costs are the claims, not the administration and the plan. It's the actual claims.
Well, it is the actual claims, but it is a direct cost. This is a direct cost.
I don't know if you could say that's a direct cost.
He's looking at a chart that breaks out the total cost of our plan, which would be our claims
Right,
cost.
which is based on the entire package.
Claims,
Our problem
plus, yeah.
is the overall system together, and how we break that out, I think, is where we've seen the challenge is can we come up with a better pharmacy plan?
Yeah.
That helps save us money? Do we need to look at, when this plan was started way back when, and the city provided everything and went on, I mean, life's changed. People are living. We're carrying people for 40 years these days. So it's an overall
If we
challenge.
Retire at age, 55 and still stay on our
For 30 years.
retirement, and they go work somewhere else, but keep our retirement. And so I think, and what I would say is, Howard and I, we talked about this, we kind of disagree on this one issue, but I think we all need to put them all on the table and talk about them. I think the better time is at the healthcare work session, and let's just really put everything out here on the budget. Let's get this budget done. We can't make those changes right now.
I think what Howard's put to light, though, is very helpful because we do need to break down all those pieces that way to look at it in a global spectrum and how each piece comes out.
That makes up the entire package.
Yeah, because we have to, we have to make some hard decisions, and it may mean the city's contribution coming down, but I would like us to get some resolution on the budget, this general fund. We can't make those changes to affect.
I've got a question on the budget.
Let Howard finish his stream of consciousness and Sam.
Two things to tie it back to the budget. I think we might need to consider, or could consider, taking a number, $2 million, and telling the staff that we are going to commit as a council to cut $2 million out of our healthcare cost with our new consultant. Let them figure out where it's going to be, and that $2 million would be an immediate revenue for the general fund.
And with that, but that's going to come back to us being willing to commit to a new program design that backs into that.
And my final point on my stream of consciousness is I don't think it's fair for the 1,288 employees that are only getting employee coverage to lose, if my figure is right.
You're holding that. You're gonna keep bringing that one up.
But Howard, I would say to you that you got to be careful when you make a statement like that, because you could have one of those single employees not taking their diabetes medicine and having a renal failure that costs the city $150,000, and then you got a family of 4 that never gets one claim.
Well,
you got to be very careful when you start saying that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, I spent a tremendous amount of time the last time I sat around this table looking at these things and trying to be very conscious on how we move. And we made some good efforts, but things have changed, and we've got to do the same thing again, which really takes us rolling up our elbows. But I got to tell you, and I applaud you for taking the time to do it, but I'm telling you, you need to be real careful when you mention numbers like that, because it is a lot more detail-oriented, and you can't just cut. It's not cut and dry. It is not a black and white issue.
It is a very difficult issue, but we need to be able to tackle it. We cannot afford to keep putting $30 million plus 8% a year into the budget.
We all agree to that, and I think that, what we did last time, we really made a change where it lowered our actuary. We made a better health. Now times has changed in the last 5 years, and we need to address that. The last time we did that, we were able to, capture some of that rebate money and look at different pharmacy. We got to keep everybody on their toes.
Over $100 million and reduce
Right.
that long-term actuarial liability, Mr. Davis.
Everything. Go back to the 2%.
2 mills.
Your 2 mills. Well, 3 actually. Have we calculated what's the calculation on that?
It's 1.2 million, or $1.1 million.
That's 2, but not 3 now. You said.
About 5, 6.
That's $2 million. I hadn't heard 3.
I thought you said 3.
It's the same math. He said 2
Same math.
He did say maybe add on some more.
Yeah, I would be willing to go 4.
No.
City of Columbia ought to have 100 mills.
I understand that, but I think same as the arguments with health insurance. It's not a single blast to get there, because we're talking pass-ons to taxpayers. So I don't have a problem with 2 mills right now. That takes care of.
Yeah, I think 2 mills is reasonable. We're just recovering what was lost.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Now it's back.
Yeah, and but I just like to caution everybody that even with that, we need to be prepared to explain to the folks. I think there's a very good case to be made for public safety.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, I would be prepared to make that case, and I think we ought to make that case very early, starting, I'm telling folks now, there will be certain increases, so forth and so on. Don't know what the bottom line, but you have to prepare them for what we're really doing and where we're really trying to get to.
I was in a community meeting last night, and I think I may have said that. We hadn't done this in so many years, and it's needful and very critical now, man, that two meal increase, and that averages out is $500 and some odd thousand dollars a meal.
$550
A meal, right? So that's $1 million what?
$1,000,001.
$1,000,001.
And this is in conjunction with what we would likely do with water, sewer, water rates, and so forth. So.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be some pushback. I know I got some last night, and I'm sure you're gonna get some, the rest of you are
I'm
gonna get
getting it, hey.
some. But I think justifiably, if we did that certainly gives us an opportunity to do the homework, answer the question. You're gonna get beat up regardless.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to sustain where we ought to be as a capital city when it comes to public safety.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And I think one of the descriptors of that is that our pockets are being picked by other municipalities in terms of the positions we're losing.
Yeah.
And
But
it's
you
not.
said it very gentle, Sam. You said it's been picked. The pocket's been picked. No, it ain't been picked.
I understand.
Shoes have been shined.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, again, that's something that has to be messaged and messaged right.
Right. I think we got a good message. I think we can sell it. I'm not afraid of it.
Just,
Consensus.
I think the question may have been asked. 2 mil increase reflects about $8 a year on an owner-occupied home of 100,000. So it's about $8 a year increase on a $100,000 home.
What was that? I'm sorry. What was that again, Missy? I'm sorry. Missy, what was that?
$8 on a
$8 a year on a $100,000 owner-occupied home, and that's before any other rebates or
Yeah.
reductions.
I would hope.
$100,000.
Oh, well, if the hope is, yeah.
I would hope that we could keep on not only with revenue enhancements like the 2 mil, but keep looking at those items in the budget that we might be able to continue to cut so that we could refund the community promotions group. We've got 2 groups here this afternoon that aren't they both out of community promotions?
Who are they?
Not the urban league, well.
It had.
It hadn't been in
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
so it would be.
Yeah.
Urban League and
Urban League
Senior
is-
Care too.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Devine?
Couple things. Number one, I think as far as looking at stuff, what I would also suggest is, Ms. Wilson, I mean, I know it needs to be updated, but if we could bring back out the efficiency study, it's been about, 8 years? 10 years, and, there were some recommendations that were in there that we did not, take advantage of, for various reasons, and there might be some new things that we have, but it might just jog our memory on some things that we could take a look at. So I would suggest that moving forward, not for this budget, but moving forward. Secondly, what I would say is that, I think that we have got to look at everything, but as we, talk about our vision statement, as we talk about our vision statement and retaining talent and doing this and doing that, we have to think about how our decisions today impact those, and I've said that before, but I would go to Howard's points, and again, everything needs to be put on the table, but I'd say we have to be very thoughtful on how we approach healthcare as well, because, part of that could be, as we want to retain, talent, recruit talent, we need to make sure that we're not doing something that affects younger families that, can't necessarily afford the changes that are being talked about. So I agree with Daniel. It's a lot more complicated to look at, and I think we have to balance some of those decisions And then I guess the last thing I was going to say, as far as the healthcare costs, we need to. And I know we'll have that discussion, but part of going for that new management contract was addressing some of the issues that Daniel was talking about. Health behavior or behaviors of our employees to make sure that they are reducing claims and they're getting taking wellness. A few years ago, Daniel Sam, remember that when we first talked about doing the smoking surcharge, which we have now, this council's finally done it. The council at that time didn't want to do that. And so when you're talking about the single person, well, the single person who's a smoker and has all these other issues might have a lot more claims paid out than, a family of four. So we really have to look at how do we affect employee behavior. And sometimes that means we have to mandate or strongly encourage changes of behaviors, which in the past sometimes this council hasn't been willing to do.
That's a huge piece of the puzzle. You want to say something first, Dan?
I just, as we're looking at this, and I know we've discussed mills and other things, but we're shifting that burden back to the people who have been carrying a lot of that for a long time. And, my question still comes back to, can we look at other alternatives of creating a business license flat fee for all nonprofits operating within the city limits? There's a lot of property, and I'm going to quote Jeff Palin because I don't know the number, but it's close to 4,000 parcels. Is that a little right at 4,000 parcels that are owned by nonprofits? And they're not. Is there a way that we can provide? Maybe it's a flat fee for each one of those parcels, so that we creating a balance between the nonprofits and our homeowners and other people, so that everybody's fairly contributing for the services that we're providing. Because what we're talking about here is providing basic services. In a town like Columbia, 4,000 parcels are huge. That's probably a pretty sized landmass, I've got to guess, based on where we are. But we have to strike, obviously, to continue to grow our basis, we got to encourage vertical growth, core growth where we already have infrastructure so it's not costing us more. Things that we haven't done in the past. I mean, we shouldn't have a parking lot on the corner of Gervais Street and Assembly. We ought to have buildings producing tax income. And I think that, we've created this. If you historically look at it, we've required people to have so much parking that it's become, that's why we have these so-called parking wars today. We've created, so we got, I think in the strategic plan, we need to take it to these levels as well. But I think we ought to look at passing something that brings everybody into equal ground as the homeowners as well.
I don't have a problem with that argument. I think we all kind of understand how we got to that point. But as we look to increase revenue from other non-traditional sources, I'd like to see us also consider some sort of stabilization on just the cost of doing business in the city of Columbia. I think that is hampering us in terms of potential investments also. I mean, I can't go anywhere without hearing that folks are making some comparisons. I'm not saying we need to stop, but if we could kind of maybe stabilize that for a while.
I don't disagree with you at all.
While we're in the process of looking at other revenues or other entities that aren't contributing to the cost of running the city. Whether you call it revenue, taxes, or whatever, but it's just.
Well, we're just, being a capital city and it's a double-edged sword, because if we didn't have state government and the university and other things, we wouldn't be the city that we are, because people are here because of them. So it's a double-edged sword. But at the same time, I think there needs to be a balance between the residents and the nonprofits who, I forgot who it was. Somebody years ago said we should, put a toll booth at every bridge coming in and collect it for all the people that come in, and that would cover our costs since they use it, which is,
It swells the population every day, right?
Yeah.
40%, so.
I remember the headline, but I don't know.
I can't remember who suggested that.
But I think that this conversation is due, and again, if we can message it right, and I think we can justify it in terms of, again, what it takes to operate this capital city. We can make some decisions, and folks will support it. The general public will. Again, when you really consider, again, the number of entities, whether it's organizations or land parcels that aren't really contributing to the resource base, it tilts the scale. Not necessarily going to be even, but I think we can kind of shift that some.
I think the city manager's already committed to the staff working during the summer on new and innovative resources, revenue resources, and I think that would include a nonprofit fee, a public safety fee, maybe a dormitory fee per bed, public safety.
We're committed to putting it all on the
All of
table.
those are options that other cities do use.
As well as not just looking at revenue streams, but prioritizing and look at programs in terms of being able to prioritize
Right.
and looking for opportunities for those savings.
Well, we
'Cause
can't
it's gonna-
fund everything either. I mean, it's just, we're beyond that stage, and, the requirement today from the folks who live in this community is the basic services, and that's our first and foremost, and everything else we gotta leverage. But, I think, after our discussion earlier today of trying to support the youth growth, but also really expanding it so that our community and business folks are investing in that program, and it's not just, it's not just the city, because that's not the way it's going to sustain.
Sometimes it's not cutting the cost so much as it is realigning the cost into the priorities that are set.
Well, listening to everyone, quiet.
Get on the train.
Avec,
Get on the train.
I've never eschewed being on the train or off the train. I don't mind being my own man. Obviously, our commitment needs to be making sure we provide high quality services, particularly the most important services in terms of public safety. I think that we gotta. I think some of these decisions, honestly, we probably need to dig deep on the details as to how we deliver on some of them. But policy-wise and even fiscally, I think we can make those decisions now and require our staff, with our commitment to helping them solve the problems, to prospectively do that. Some of what you mentioned. I've always expressed to you all my deep opposition to any tax increases, and I say that with the fact that I know almost all of you share that very same position, recognizing that that even with if you look at taking a look back at the tax decrease that we did a couple of years ago, I understand the windows on recapturing that, Howard. The value of that mill is still, I think, depressed. I mean, the value of a mill just in some other cities in the state are worth almost 2 times what the value of a mill is here. I will tell you that is still going to be a hopefully, prayerfully, a one-time deal. So it's a one-trick pony. We're not going to look at this thing every single year. There's some deeper, more meaningful changes that we've got to make if we're going to have a sustainable budget. And I dare say that most, if not most of those things we've done internally, and I'm very happy that we've done them. But getting our hands wrapped around healthcare and something we have to adjust every single year. We have to go back and look at our plan design. We have to go back to philosophically what we feel our obligations are and our responsibilities, and making sure we have a strong workforce of public servants serving the needs of this city, but we're starting to see the fruits of our collective labors. Year over year increases in tax revenue, 3% maybe each of this year and the year to come. What we're also seeing, however, is precipitous increases in healthcare, and I think a much more aggressive effort engaging our citizens on health and wellness, and as Tamika mentioned, on issues like smoking and other types of behaviors. We've got to be just downright much more clear that we have a collective responsibility to making sure that we remain healthy, because our current expenses are unsustainable. There's certainly obviously some major issues that no one can control, and it's our obligation, I think, to continue to stand in the gap to make sure we provide for our employees, our retirees, and I also agree, our dependents. We got to continue our efforts in dependent verification. We got to continue to, again, reassess the overall healthcare plan. I would support looking at our healthcare expenses, our proposed expenses, and reducing the annual required contribution on GASB, and then making a commitment that we're going to back into those costs over whatever plan design, other decisions we make over this summer. I think the decrease shows with the allocation to the general fund that we'd have to cut our GASB contribution by about 1.9 million would free up the 1.1 million or so to allow us to do the cost of living increase in the public, and also meet, I think, the public safety requests on the table. I'd rather go that route. At the very same time, I agree with all of you that all these things need to be on the table. Let's look at all the collective suggestions made around the table, looking at how we begin to present a much more comprehensive approach to delivering services to our citizens. Let's look at healthcare. Let's look at Daniel's suggestion. Let's look at anything. So I'd say that would be my proposal. We cut the ARC, and we just got to make sure we're committed to backing into whatever creative plan design to make it happen. Daniel referenced these numbers. Mr. Palin and Ms. Alonzo Kaufman will have to correct me, but I think, Daniel, we're talking about 5-6 years ago, that dropped the unaccrued actuarial liability by about $120 million. And 238 down to about 238 to about 110, and then look at the corresponding decrease in our ARC. Now, I'm not saying that the changes will, and this is a constant process. We'll have to do this, year after year, and then of course making sure that if it's looking at some of the other the consultants that we're going to be dealing with, Aon, whoever else happens to be. I just think we got to make a commitment, and I'm not trying to take your idea off the table, Howard. I just say it gives me heartburn as we had a chance to talk late last night about how we're sleeping. He was more wide awake than I was. I'd rather take that route and then us committing to making it work. And I think you got a rare opportunity, Madam City Manager. You got a council that collectively and entirely unanimously wants to work to make things happen right now.
How are you going to adjust the annual required contribution to get that $1.1 million? What are you going to do? What action are you going to take?
Well, I think one of the things we ought to look at is we have a reserve fund, and what's the best way that we could leverage that to get.
You're not going to build a parking garage with the $55 million.
No, sir. Not only if I have my way, but I think there might be a committee of one in that regard.
I think we need to look at the options.
Yeah. No. Just it'd have to be plan design. Some other,
but doing that's going to help as well.
You're just taking it out of a different pocket than I was taking it. I was taking it out of the health.
You add, yeah.
You're taking it out of the adjusting to make the art.
Yeah, but the reality is that, you know, almost all the things so far that we can control internally, we've done. I mean, we're down the muscle right now.
Yeah.
So we don't want any fat. We want to build that muscle. So I think everything that's been suggested here speaks to that fact.
And yeah, we're
So you,
down to,
why don't we agree to give the city manager $2 million for her budget? And we have to come up with a combination of things, maybe adjustments to the ARC, maybe adjustments to the plan design for the health benefit, but pledge that we will take the necessary steps to free up $2 million worth of revenue that she's got in her budget.
$2 million?
I feel Teresa's brainwaves working over there. What you got?
She was
I'm
thinking
trying to think
about
of $2 million.
2.5. He said 2
You or maybe
thought it was
Jeff.
2.5.
We need, well, the 2 mills would be generating 1.1, so if it's to replace the mills,
The mayor's
unless
trying to
you're,
get away from the millage.
Yeah.
if you're getting away from the
Jeff,
mills,
what's your name?
It's the 1.9, they rounded it to the 2.
right.
So the 2, the effect in general, if it's to the arc, is going to end up being roughly 1.1.
1.1.
Right. Right, so it's not $2 million in the general fund total, across the, everybody.
Okay. And I'm fine with the commitment. I still, and I know not everybody might agree, I still would agree to do the 2 mills just because every year, whether it's, you know, it's the step increases for law enforcement or it's doing community promotions or it's putting more money in parks, every year we have the same discussion. And, you know, I just agree that we, you know, that's where we should be. Even when we brought it up, and I did vote for it, but when we did, I said, I don't think this is a good idea, but I voted for it, and I'm regretting it. I don't think we should have decreased the millage. So I
But we
would
gotta
support
make the
going back.
commitment, if you go that type of route, that when we do have excess money, we don't go to a 2 o'clock spending spree.
Right.
I swear.
And I promise you
And then we
that's
look at internal,
Three fingers.
internal needs
that's
before we start looking at ours.
the request internally,
You'd already taken $3 million out.
the requests internally and externally will always exceed what we have. And that's just the nature of the beast. And the requests internally and externally will almost always 99% of them 99% of the time be meritorious. So it's not an issue of waste or anything else. The challenge is that we are collectively inclined to meet those needs. So we can't make the various adjustments that we're currently making in the budget and the other funds. Look at millage increase, and also look at, as I do believe we need to, of course, aggressively look at plan design, including I think the idea of we won't have to do the ARs, the adjusted and required contribution change. But we can't do all that and then 12 months later be right back here again saying we don't have enough money, y'all. That just won't work. That just won't work, and I'm not sure.
well, we need to
We will be
put
responsible.
more.
Because we have the resources.
Well, I think you're right that we're gonna begin to see the effects of investments over the last several years hitting the tax rolls for a change. They're not doing it right yet, but I think they will by the next year.
But we still have to strike the balance, and we still need to do all the things we discussed, but we gotta stick to it, you know? If it's healthcare and it's pharmacy plans and plan change and all that, there are creative ways, other communities do it, we're not reinventing the wheel. We just gotta commit to it, and I think collectively, sitting around this table, folks wanna commit to try to make everything balance out. So, you know, having these discussions like we're having here are so beneficial. At the same time, we need to embrace the growth in our community, but we gotta start helping direct it. So that we're not creating that, you know, the police department and other folks gotta go so far out and stretch because we're annexing this and that when we could be sitting up. And I invite everybody, we'll go up to the Capital City Club and walk through all the windows and look around. And look at all the parcels that are sitting empty.
Oh, yeah, we have I forget the disproportionate, there's a number we saw recently, it may have been ULI number, it talks about surface parking. Half of them are owned by your predecessor, by some of our friends that are ripe for good, solid, mixed-use, potentially mixed-income development that I think we ought to get even more creative in incentivizing some type of development there.
The private sector will handle the parking.
Oh, yeah, and let me tell you what, and I think in the last couple of years, we've been a whole lot easier to work with on parking variances. Hopefully, the way that people are moving and product is moving in America is changing dramatically, that the significant and sometimes onerous parking requirements can inhibit development.
Oh, no question. I sat through one last night up in North Columbia.
So, to get us at a consensus, I think there's a consensus that we want the 2 mills. We want the city manager to look at adjustments to the ARC that may.
I think it also needs to be clear, and as Davis referenced it, everyone probably did, but Sam most specifically, the very direct connection between the needs to strongly support our public safety agencies and making it clear we're training the best and brightest. We need to make sure we
want to keep them.
We retain the best and brightest, and I think that argument doesn't just be made privately. Let's make it publicly with some panache, and in addition to all the other incentives we put in place, particularly around police, aggressively bring back. You give the chief a lot of latitude within his budget to do things. Let's go get some of our folks and recruit some more.
Absolutely. Much appreciated. Very
Don't worry,
hard
I'm
discussion.
not going to change my mind.
You gotta watch now. Somebody may change their mind.
No.
Maybe
We're
we'll
not
play
gonna
this
change, man.
conversation
We're
back.
affirming this.
All right, let's
Thank you all for what I
Quick your
know are
hand.
very hard discussions, and
blood issue.
we're not done. Yeah,
We
we're
want
not
to get off
finished.
it, and nobody will change their mind. Let's
Nobody,
go
and
on
we're
something else.
firm. This consensus.
We'll appreciate that, and I don't know how much in detail you want to go into water, sewer, stormwater. Oh, this was all fun summary. I know hospitality. we
Y'all,
probably need to
I just,
address.
We've done it.
we gotta
Yeah.
do the stormwater. We
Yeah.
gotta put it all in.
Yeah.
I've spent between Dreer and stormwater, that's only issues Burwell, as y'all know, is becoming an extreme problem with the rebuild, and we're having flooding now back into all those. There's no storm drainage catch basins. DOT has given our staff a hard time about helping these folks. We have got to attack the stormwater issue. It is a citywide issue, and we have to have our partners, DOT, Richland County, all these people who are involved to the table. You know, those are partnerships. And then the only other thing I would say, Ms. Wilson, is that, you know, we need to make sure that our friends of Richland County, who still struggle to believe that the city of Columbia is in Richland County, that the actual cost of the fire service are the fire service.
Yes. Working on that now.
Okay, all right, I can push on the gas or slow down as much as you like, but just to sort of touch base, proposed water and sewer budget is $152.8 million. Of course, the focus for the water and sewer is the capital improvement program and the investments in our capital improvement program, which will, of course, address our Clean Water 2020 initiatives as it does every year. This will be, this fiscal year, you will see the beginnings of the phased-in implementation of the automated meter reading, AMI, AMR, and of course, addressing water quality issues. As far as the operational budget, the focus there is customer service. $2 to include some reorganization and realignment of operations and looking at operational efficiencies. Of course, within the operating budget is also a significant contribution towards meeting our Clean Water 2020 program. And we'll be, yes,
Or
ma'am.
Ms. Wilson, either one, and I know we've said this a couple times, but I was speaking at Greenview the other day, and I was using these, and when it said operational efficiencies, they wanted examples, and I couldn't give many, and so as we start implementing those, and as we
Yes.
come up with stuff, please make sure we're aware of them, so we can share that with folks so that they know, because I think that is the biggest thing, we've talked about that a lot, from the transfer to, busted pipes and different things. People are just, questioning if we go up on rates, what are we doing? And when people have frustrations about their water bill and stuff, it just doesn't help.
And of course, here is just
Budget
a
and brief, hopefully, that we'll do after we've gotten to the point to present that final budget in the public hearing. We'll make sure
lot of
we include
investments
a
in
lot
tech.
of that.
a lot of investments in technology and that, like the RAP program and the manhole covers and a couple of things like that. We can pull some of those things back out.
Yeah.
Just to see here, you can see the, this budget broken out in terms of how it is also allocated. Of course, utility operations makes up the largest percentage of this budget, which would include the, direct lines of the, as well as that is our treatment plants, that is our maintenance crews, that is our, repair crews. So that's the meat of the operation. And of course, a significant the operating budget reflects another, in excess of 50 million investment in the CIP between debt service and cash. Stormwater budget, it has now grown to 12.6 million. Of course, that reflects a almost 75% increase of 5.3 million over the current year budget. A majority of that being, of course, due to the rate increase of $5 per ERU. That's going to be a phased-in implementation over the next few years. So it's 5 years, $5 increase from $6.80 to $11.80 starting in July of 2017, and then a 6.25 rate increase each year thereafter for the next 5 years. That's a 93. Yeah, I guess over the 4 years. It's 4 years after. That's right. And of course, this also does have an operating budget, so there are operating increases, and this reflects increases for some partial funding for the staffing that's going to be required to be able to implement the $93 million CIP. Of course, not all of that's to be able to manage the capital improvement program. And then as well as maintenance crews that will be doing some of the city force construction projects as well. The budget also includes a commitment that council made earlier this year as a $200,000 grant match for Gills Creek watershed. Of course, that funding is contingent upon that grant being awarded. Stormwater budget, again, you can see breaking out of this budget, Public Works is the largest allocation out of this fund for and of course, Public Works would be the street division crew, which are the folks that actually do the storm drainage cleaning and construction and various repairs. That's not done by a contractor through the CIP program or through engineering services. The reserve is a new allocation based on the first-time issuance of a bond out of the stormwater fund that has not been done before. Yes, sir.
Go back and talk about that Public Works one more time.
Yes, sir.
Stormwater doesn't have employees of its own.
Oh, yes.
They
You
do?
do, yes. The entire Public Works Street Division has multiple divisions within it. The Street Division Storm Drain Unit is specifically staff held within the Public Works Fund. Engineering, there are some staff that are charged 100% of this fund, like I think the floodplain manager, the stormwater engineer, some of those staff that work solely on stormwater issues. But then proportionally, some of the other staffing is charged here as well from the engineering staff. Like some of the engineers that do design work, but they may be across all, but between water, sewer, and stormwater. It's a much smaller percentage of their staffing time. It has been. That will shift going forward. But otherwise, there is staff in the stormwater fund. That was the purpose, that was also too, that was at the creation of the utility when it was first established.
I didn't realize we had dedicated storm troopers.
We have, yeah.
To get them some shirts with that on.
So. Parking fund, this budget is 8 million, not much change in the parking fund budget this year. It's about a 3% reduction actually from current year, just because we're reusing less of fund balance. The majority of this budget is for debt service, and then of course the parking facilities operations is about $4.2 million of the total budget. That would be the parking services staff, everywhere from the enforcement to parking garage administration and the facilities maintenance. Oh, that was in the wrong. That should actually be parking services. Parking services is, of course, the largest percentage of this budget, followed by debt service. Proposed hospitality tax, this budget is still the same as what was presented originally, 11.4 million, which is an increase of 300,000 or 3% over the current year proposed budget. The allocations, of course, from the hospitality tax reflect between the committee and the line item agencies 4.8, and then there's a transfer to the general fund increase of about 700,000. Just to reiterate, the budget that was presented to you last that the committee, I believe, is moving forward with, reflects that the hospitality committee was receiving the same as the current year, which is $2,109,000. And then the line item agencies are the same as the current year of $2,696,000. The remaining $327,000 of that committee allocation is for commitments already made during this current fiscal year or multi-year commitments. And of course, there's a debt service amount of 2.5 million. Next, we have the proposed accommodations tax budget. This budget is a $2.2 million, an increase of about 4.3%, or a little less than $100,000 increase over the current year.
Remind me, Ms. Kaufman,
Yes, sir.
the $25,000 transfer that's going on for as long as I can remember, what was the reasoning behind that?
That is in state law. It specifically says transfer to the general fund. Literally, it is taken right off the top.
$25,000.
25,000. It's been that
What
in
was the
state law probably
purpose?
since.
I can't remember. I mean, I know I'm
Well,
probably,
it was a deal made when it was passed, and ATAX, statewide ATAX was
I mean, it's been there forever.
83 or 84. It was a deal put in there to.
So 25,000 back then was probably a pretty big percentage of the budget. Now it's pretty minimal. So, but going through that, there's 60% that is dedicated for tourism-related expenses and 30% that is allocated for advertising and promotion of tourism. Those funds are allocated. Those funds total $2,089,000. Those are allocated by the committee. That's also required by state law. Pretty much, there's two recipients of those funds.
Yeah, when the ATAX was first proposed, since we got a little bit of time to kill, it was part of 9 different local government funding taxes, and the ATAX was, I think, the first one that actually got passed, and it was to be a local option at first, and then they decided to put it on statewide all at one time. It was supposed to be new revenue for local governments, and they put so many restrictions in there about how it could be used. They threw the 25,000, which in those days was a pretty significant number.
Hell, it doesn't even cost us, it doesn't even cover the cost of the paperwork we gotta do on all that.
But it was something, and back in the day, it was big.
Well, they give us another bone, 5%. The remaining 5% can be used for general purposes, so we treat it as the general fund, but it stays within those funds, so those funds are allocated directly there. Now, there are 2 recipients that receive those funds, and that would be one Columbia, and the other is the Together We Can Read initiative.
On our total, most of that goes to the Convention Center Bureau and Lake Murray.
Convention Center and Lake Murray are the 2 recipients, and of course, CBB is
Do they
proportionally.
get the automatic growth, that 4.6% each year, that given to them?
It's broken out percentage, well, the 25,000 comes off the top, so then everything else after that is broken out percentage-wise. So each category receives the amount, and even if there's any surplus at the end of the year, it's also subject to the same, because the state law is very clear as to how it's allocated, 30, 60,
It
90.
doesn't say it all has to go to convention center.
No.
What are the hard numbers on what we do send to convention center, what we send to Lake Murray?
That would
Or
be,
CVB rather.
Ms. Gober might be able to discuss how those are broken out at the end of the year, but otherwise they are, I don't know how they're.
The committee makes a recommendation when they bring you their report. This year, the recommendation was that all the, excess surplus goes to the CVB. And their recommendation will come with their recommendation of dividing up the money. They also include surplus.
I think the mayor was asking.
So they're gonna get.
What's the breakdown?
What's the amount? We know the percentages, but what was the amount that they got last year?
I
Lake
think
Murray-
the CVB got 1.6.
The Lake Murray, it's on the budget package that was attached to the agenda. In the current year, CVB received, those were switched, 1,706,000, and then CVB, and then Lake Murray received 290. Unfortunately, in the budget package, you have those allocations
So it's 290 and
First.
1.76.
Right.
So let's keep in mind, y'all, we're gonna have to expand the convention center.
Need to
Okay, we're gonna need it, huh?
Put that 4.6 growth into a building fund.
Those are the convention center itself is funded, the debt service on that one is funded from the local option. That's a different fund, a different mechanism. But this funding, yes.
We need to make sure, and of course, along with that expansion will come additional operating costs and the like of the convention center and the CVB. But if we're talking about going from 25,000 square feet of exhibit space to 100,000 square feet of exhibit space, it's significant. And obviously, the approach that we would prefer would need to be a regional approach, us and the county and Lexington County as it has been historically. And it's going to keep everybody together in that table. But just as we're looking at these numbers, I just kind of wanted to put that into the discussion.
Moving on real quickly, just to sort of recap, the capital improvement program or the capital improvement budget for you this year is incorporating only water and sewer and stormwater. The CIP for the water and sewer system, water is 40 million, sewer is 80 million for a combined total of 120. We've already outlined that 40 million of the water quality, water CIP is for water quality, AMR, AMI, and utility relocation. And then 80 million for sewer CIP is focused on clean water, sewer rehab, sewer upgrades, and capacity enhancements. Stormwater, it's not really broken out graphically, but this is the information that was provided to you. This is a list of the $93 million projects that will be phased in over the next several years, as outlined by the engineering staff at the last council meeting, with the 17, 18 representing 19, almost 20 million of that CIP. And then we've already met this point, and that final point in discussion is we will now have the budget public hearing and first reading on the June 13th meeting at night, 6 p.m. meeting.
Just sent out a newsletter today saying June 6th.
And that concludes this part of the workshop, unless there's any other questions or point of discussion. Thank you all. We're going to have to play this conversation back at the retreat.
Thank you.
Do we have to redo executive session or read it again? We through?
No, you just, a motion to go back in. No, you don't need to go back through each item. Go upstairs and, yes,
I got
Can we
it.
do that?
yes,
What's our
sir.
plan?
You see that, Sam?
Adjourn to executive session upstairs.
What do we have left?
That's it. Oh, we got 3 executive
Yeah,
sessions.
we didn't do anything but that.
Let's
We got
go upstairs and put on your whole,
tenant filing fees, incentives.
I was just saying,
put on your whole,
yeah. Is there a motion to go back into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Third.
Been properly moved and seconded to go back into executive session for the previously outlined items. If the clerk would read the roll.
See it,
Aye.
yes,
Aye.
see it, Sam,
Aye.
you see it.
Are we going right
See
in
that thing,
or?
man.